The story of America begins with a yearning for new beginnings. Europeans, seeking opportunity and escaping persecution, crossed the vast Atlantic. They landed on a continent teeming with diverse Native American tribes, each with their own rich cultures and traditions. The first English settlement, Jamestown, emerged in 1607, marking the start of a new era. The colonists faced hardship and uncertainty. They braved a wild and unfamiliar land. They struggled to build homes and establish communities. Yet, they persevered, driven by a spirit of adventure and a desire for freedom. Over the next century, 13 colonies took root along the Atlantic coast. Each colony developed its own unique character and identity. From the bustling port of Boston to the plantation economy of Virginia, a new society began to take shape. However, the seeds of conflict were sown as the colonies grew, and tensions with Great Britain mounted over issues of taxation and representation. This struggle for autonomy would soon ignite a revolution that would forever change the course of history. The year 1776 echoed with the words of revolution. The Declaration of Independence, a bold proclamation of liberty and self-determination, declared that the 13 colonies were no longer under British rule. Led by visionaries like George Washington, a new nation was born. The American Revolution was a fierce struggle for freedom. Colonial farmers and merchants took up arms against the mighty British Empire. Battles raged from the fields of Lexington and Concord to the hills of Saratoga. The Continental Army, outmatched and outgunned, fought valiantly for their right to self-government. Through courage, determination, and the support of foreign allies, the Americans secured a stunning victory. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 formally recognized the independence of the United States. A new nation, founded on the principles of liberty and equality, emerged on the world stage. The American experiment had begun. In the aftermath of revolution, the fledgling nation faced the daunting task of self-governance. The Articles of Confederation, the first attempt at a national government, proved too weak to effectively unite the 13 states. Leaders like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton recognized the need for a stronger union. In 1787, delegates gathered in Philadelphia for the Constitutional Convention. They debated fiercely over the structure of the new government. From these deliberations emerged the United States Constitution, a masterpiece of compromise and political innovation. The Constitution established a system of checks and balances, dividing power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. George Washington, the hero of the Revolution, became the nation's first president. He guided the young republic through its formative years, establishing precedents that shaped the presidency for centuries to come. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, guaranteed fundamental rights and freedoms to all citizens. The United States, a beacon of liberty and democracy, embarked on its journey as a nation. As the 19th century progressed, a deep moral and political crisis engulfed the nation's slavery. The issue of slavery divided the nation, pitting North against South in a bitter struggle over human freedom and states' rights. The election of Abraham Lincoln, a staunch opponent of slavery, in 1860 proved to be the breaking point. The Southern states, determined to preserve their way of life, seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. The American Civil War, a bloody and brutal conflict, erupted in 1861. Brother fought against brother, and the nation was torn apart. Lincoln, leading with unwavering resolve, issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, declaring the freedom of slaves in Confederate territories. The war raged on for 2 more years, claiming the lives of over 600,000 Americans. Finally, in 1865, the Confederacy crumbled and the Union was preserved. Section 5. Industrial Might and Growing Pains, the Gilded Age. Following the turmoil of the Civil War, a new era dawned in America, the Gilded Age. The Industrial Revolution, fueled by technological innovation and a wave of immigration, transformed the nation into an economic powerhouse. railroads spanned the continent, connecting the East Coast to the burgeoning West. Factories sprang up in cities, attracting millions of workers seeking opportunity. The rise of industry created immense wealth, but also stark inequality. Powerful industrialists like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie amassed vast fortunes while many workers toiled in dangerous conditions for meager wages. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, leading to social unrest and the rise of labor unions. Despite the challenges, the Gilded Age was a time of immense growth and transformation. Cities swelled with new arrivals and American culture flourished. The seeds of modern America, with its industrial might and social complexities, were sown during this era of profound change. Section 6. Reform and World Conflict, the Progressive Era and World War I. The dawn of the 20th century ushered in an era of reform known as the Progressive Era. Concerned citizens and reformers sought to address the social and economic ills that plagued the nation. Muckraking journalists exposed corruption in government and industry. Social reformers championed the rights of women, children, and immigrants. The United States emerged as a global power in the early 20th century. World War I, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, engulfed Europe in 1914. Initially, the United States remained neutral, but the sinking of the Lusitania and the Zimmermann telegram drew the nation into the conflict in 1917. American soldiers, dubbed doughboys, joined the Allied forces in the trenches of Europe. The war had a profound impact on American society, accelerating social and cultural changes. The Roaring Twenties, a decade of economic prosperity and cultural dynamism, followed the war's end. However, the seeds of future conflict were sown as the Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh penalties on Germany, setting the stage for future global unrest. Section 7. Depression and Global Strife, the Great Depression and World War II. The exuberance of the Roaring Twenties came to a crashing halt with the stock market crash of 1929. The Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in American history, gripped the nation. Millions lost their jobs, homes, and life savings. Bread lines stretched for blocks as despair and poverty spread. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, elected president in 1932, promised a New Deal for the American people. His administration implemented a series of programs designed to provide relief, recovery, and reform. The New Deal fundamentally reshaped the role of government in American life. As the world grappled with economic depression, a new threat emerged: fascism. In Europe, Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime rose to power, preaching a message of hate and aggression. World War II erupted in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. The United States, initially reluctant to enter another global conflict, provided aid to Great Britain and other allied nations. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, shocked the nation and propelled the United States into World War II. American industry mobilized for war production, and millions of Americans served in the armed forces. From the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, American soldiers fought bravely against the forces of tyranny. Section 8. The Cold War and the Fight for Equality, a nation divided yet united. The aftermath of World War II brought new challenges and a new global order. The Cold War, a tense standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, dominated international relations for decades. Both superpowers engaged in a nuclear arms race, casting a long shadow over the world. At home, the United States grappled with the legacy of racial segregation. The Civil Rights Movement, led by courageous activists like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and John Lewis, challenged Jim Crow laws and demanded equality for African Americans. Through peaceful protests, sit-ins, and marches, the Civil Rights Movement awakened the conscience of the nation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 marked significant victories in the fight for racial justice. However, the struggle for equality continues to this day. The Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the social and cultural upheavals of the 1960s profoundly shaped the United States, leaving an indelible mark on the nation's identity. Section 9. Modern America, from the Vietnam War to the Digital Age. The latter half of the 20th century was a time of profound change and upheaval. The Vietnam War, a long and divisive conflict, deeply divided the nation. The Watergate scandal shook public trust in government. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy left a nation in mourning. Despite these challenges, the United States continued to evolve. The women's rights movement gained momentum, challenging traditional gender roles. The environmental movement raised awareness about the importance of protecting the planet. The digital revolution transformed the way Americans live, work, and communicate. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 marked the end of the Cold War and the dawn of a new era. The United States emerged as the sole superpower, facing new challenges in a rapidly changing world. From the first Gulf War to the rise of terrorism, the 21st century has brought new threats and uncertainties. Through it all, the United States has remained a beacon of hope and opportunity. The American story is one of resilience, innovation, and an enduring belief in the promise of a better tomorrow. As the nation navigates the complexities of the 21st century, it continues to grapple with its past, striving to create a more perfect union for all.